Hi, this is John Harcher, and welcome to episode 30 of Valleys of Numenor. Almost to the end of the first season of Foundation, is Harry Seldon's plan coming together perfectly, or completely falling apart? We'll see how things go this episode. Episode 30, Foundation Episode 9, The First Crisis. As if we've had peace and quiet all season. Say, isn't Mr. Harden dead? Well, yes, this is a flashback to the beginning of the Foundation on Terminus. He and young Salvor discuss where people originally came from. He's not sure they could have come from anywhere, even a shining planet known as Earth. Wait a minute, wrong show. She asks why the Anacreons and Thespins hate them. He says logic and emotions are in constant conflict. Are we sure we're not on Vulcan? They see that millions were killed when the Star Bridge crashed, millions more died on Anacreon and Thespis, and nothing got solved. Salvor snaps out of the dream and realizes they're in the jump. Then suddenly, it stops. She looks out and sees that they're in orbit around Terminus. She finds Lewis dead in the control pod with Harden's coin in his hand. He got them home. She tries getting hold of Terminus, but there's no answer. She sees some of the Thespin ships who saved them dragged through space with them, so she tries calling Thespis. Then she sees Hugo's ship still floating out there in space. On Trantor, in the garden, Dawn and Azura are discussing how he can make his escape. After making the plan, he goes to Brother Dusk. The old man shows him the giant mural that shows their history and his part in it. He shows the young man he's already been immortalized on it for their hunt and his 3 kills. When he leaves, Dawn puts on the colorblind lenses and finds out that Dusk painted not 3 kills, but all 6. Just the 3 hidden ones were in red, which he couldn't see until now. The young man freaks out and packs when he's called to the tower. Dawn doesn't want to go, but is kind of forced. He tries to go back, but the watchman forces him to. He uses his shield to knock him out. He then runs into the garden, but the guards block his way. He hides in the station, then remembers the hidden way Azura told him, like underneath the sewers and things like that. Thing is, he has to get through the water processor to get out. So he jumps. Salvor decides to try for Hugo's ship. She barely makes it and grabs onto a handhold. She's able to wake the ship up since it's under her command. Now back on Trantor, Dawn makes it through the tunnel to find a group of people living in squalor. He trades his force bracelet for a jacket. Now back in space, back and forth, Harden tries to get in touch with Terminus again. No one answers, but the ship sees an incoming threat. She almost gets ready to shoot it until she recognizes it's Hugo. While they try to figure things out, she realizes the sound barrier around the vault has grown, and that's why no one answers. Hugo wants to run, but she says they need to take over the Invictus. It's the key to solving the crisis. Dawn is on a train riding away from the palace. He sees life as it is outside. He finds his way to Azura's sector and tries to find her. He does, and they have another makeout section with that smelly coat. Ugh. He's worried about his nanobots, but she says she has the signal damper. He goes to take a shower, then remembers he has something to tell her. He goes back out, but she's not there. She emerges from her bedroom with a gun. She starts shooting. He runs out but gets captured by a gang led by himself. On the Invictus, Hugo leads the Thespins to the bridge. They find Rowan dead in the pod and loose ropes on the ground along with an arrow. Salvor arrives back on Terminus. No one's around, and there's a lot of devastation. She finds one of those bat things either dead or totally unconscious. She runs to the settlement, and everyone is the same way, knocked out or dead. Since she's the only one that can, she goes up to the vault. She sees on the ground the kids are very close to it, but not quite there. Her mother is even closer with Harry's prime element in her hand. Salvor picks it up and tries to use it. She has flashes of her father, her mother, Harry, and Gal, all in an attempt to use it. She suddenly figures it out, and the vault, which has been floating all this time, lands, changes color, and opens up. With that, everyone wakes up, including her mother. On the Invictus, the Thespins tell the other ships that they need to go down to Terminus. But one of them has a visitor. You guessed it, Farah's on the other ship because the plot says she has to be. She then has that ship tied to her like Salvor did with Hugo's. Dawn wakes up in a dark room. He sees himself walk in, and then they're both strapped to some kind of contraption that'll take the nanobots out of one and put them in the other. Yes, he's a clone, but not one raised at the palace, but one the rebels grew elsewhere. Azura's there too, and she's his partner. When Dawn asks why they did this to him, they reply to save the galaxy. They're going to play a little man in the Iron Mask scenario by having the outside clone replace the inside one. It turns out he's actually a better clone. They messed with Dawn's DNA when he was being made. Maybe that's why he cried at the wrong time. Once it's done, they get ready to kill him, but suddenly he sees that little dragonfly drone. Imperial soldiers storm the lab and kill everyone in sight. The other clone heads for the exit, but gets his throat slit by the dude who can cloak himself. As Dawn is about to confront Azura, Dusk enters. They take the girl away. Turns out the old man's been onto the plan the whole time as well. He denounces Dawn as the embodiment of their vulnerability and that he doesn't want to see him. But he will see him every time he looks in the mirror. When the young man asks for empathy, the old man laughs. The final answer will rest with Day, who's also not quite the same as when he left. At the vault, Salvor goes on in, but the Anacreons want to stop her because, well, they don't know what's going on. Some ships land nearby, leaving off the Thespins. They then train their ship's guns on the barbarians, who figure out it's best to give up now. But then the other Thespin ship starts attacking and destroys the other two. Farah emerges, and everyone's in a standoff until the Thespins give up. Salvor has an idea. All three worlds could team up, fix the Invictus, then use it to get leverage over the Empire. Farah is unmoved, but Rowan is and tries to get her to stop. The vault suddenly makes noises, and Farah trains her guns on it and fire. Hardin tells her to stop. When she doesn't, she grabs the bow and fires an arrow right through the Huntress's neck. Crisis averted? Maybe, but another one may just be beginning as the two sides stand off against one another. Suddenly a man comes down from the vault. Harry Seldon. Turns out his plan is working perfectly after all. Could have fooled me. Now, the concepts of the vault, the Anacreons, and the first crisis all come from the first Foundation story in 1942. There'd be a crisis, people would get an alert, and they go into the vault where Harry's holograms show up and tell them how to get out of it. So the end of this episode is basically that, just a little bit more cinematic than going into a room and seeing some guy's picture show up. It also lets Jared Harris remain a pretty regular part of the cast. There is a character named Farah with an F who's sort of an Anacreon leader, so they fudge this a bit. It's not too far in line. So now we have to see how all those added parts work together. Next time is the Season 1 finale of Foundation. How exactly did Harry figure all this out? And is Gal still going to be a part of this somehow? That's next time on Valleys of Numenor. Please hit the subscribe button if you like what you're hearing. I'm John Harchart. Thanks for listening.